The Supreme Court chamber is always thick with history, its walls echoing with the weight of past decisions and the gravity of justice being served. Every detail, from the marble columns to the hushed footsteps, reminds all present that this is a place where the nation's most profound questions are answered. But on January 12, 2026, it was also thick with anticipation. The air was electric, charged with the knowledge that something momentous was about to unfold. People had camped out overnight, braving the cold, just for a chance to witness history in the making. The case of Miller vs. United States had gripped the nation, raising questions about fundamental rights and modern policing. News outlets buzzed with speculation, and families across the country tuned in, aware that the outcome could reshape the relationship between citizens and the state. As the Chief Justice began to read the opinion, a rare silence fell. Every eye in the chamber was fixed on the bench, every breath held in suspense, as the words that would soon ripple across the country were spoken. The decision was unanimous, a powerful 9-0 statement. All 9 justices, despite their differences, found common ground. The gavel's strike echoed with authority, signaling a rare moment of total agreement. Such unity is rare, especially in an era of sharp ideological divides. In a time when the country often seems split down the middle, the sight of 9 justices standing together sends a message that some principles are above politics. A unanimous ruling signals that the legal principle at stake is so clear, it transcends politics. It's a declaration that, on this issue, the law is not up for debate. It tells the country, on this issue, there is only the Constitution. The justices' voices become one, echoing the founding document that binds the nation together. The message to lower courts and law enforcement is unmistakable. This is settled law. There is no ambiguity, no room for interpretation or challenge. The path forward is clear. The weight of a unanimous decision comes from its durability. It builds a fortress around a legal principle. Like stone, it stands strong against the winds of change and the tides of political pressure. Unlike narrow rulings, a 9-0 decision is unlikely to be challenged for generations. It becomes a landmark, a reference point for future courts and lawmakers, shaping the nation's legal landscape for decades to come. The justices, often seen as 9 separate minds, spoke as one, fortifying a cornerstone of American liberty. Their unity sends a signal of stability and strength to a nation that often craves both. For citizens, a unanimous ruling like this has immediate consequences. It brings clarity, ending uncertainty and debate, and letting people know exactly where they stand under the law. It impacts your interactions with police, setting clear boundaries for what officers can and cannot do. It shapes your rights as a gun owner, defining the limits and protections guaranteed by the Constitution. And it safeguards your expectation of privacy at home, ensuring that your most personal spaces remain protected from unwarranted intrusion. Supreme Court debates are not abstract. They define the boundaries of freedom and authority in daily life. The decisions made here ripple outward, touching every community, every household, every individual. The Miller decision was not just a win for one side. It clarified where government power ends and individual rights begin. It drew a line in the sand, one that both sides of the debate must now respect. In moments like these, the court's unity becomes the nation's shield. It protects the principles that define America, ensuring that, at least for now, the Constitution speaks with one clear, unwavering voice. The case began on a quiet Ohio street, where the stillness of the morning was about to be shattered by a legal controversy that would echo across the nation. David Miller, a law-abiding gun owner and lifelong resident, was at home when police, acting on an anonymous tip, arrived at his door without a warrant or prior warning. The officers told Miller they needed to search his property. Feeling intimidated and unsure of his rights in the moment, he reluctantly let them in, believing he had no real choice. Inside, police found no illegal modifications or evidence of wrongdoing. However, they did discover an unregistered antique firearm, which led to unexpected criminal charges against Miller. Miller's lawyers quickly challenged the charges, arguing the search was unconstitutional. There was no warrant, no probable cause, and Miller's consent was not freely given, but coerced by the presence of armed officers. Prosecutors countered that public safety concerns justified a lower standard for searching homes where firearms might be present, especially in cases involving anonymous tips. courts in Ohio ultimately sided with the prosecution, citing the need for proactive policing and the unique risks associated with firearms in private homes. This decision created a split across the country. Some states continued to uphold strict warrant requirements for home searches, while others began carving out exceptions specifically for cases involving firearms. The Supreme Court stepped in to resolve the growing conflict. Does simply owning a gun mean Americans have fewer Fourth Amendment protections against unreasonable searches? Miller v. United States became a direct and dramatic clash between the Second Amendment's right to bear arms and the Fourth Amendment's guarantee of privacy and protection from government intrusion. The court now faced a profound question. Can exercising one constitutional right ever diminish another, or must both be protected equally under the law? The stage was set for a landmark ruling, one that would redefine the delicate balance between citizens, their property, and the reach of state power in modern America. As arguments were heard and the nation watched, Americans everywhere waited anxiously for clarity on where their rights truly begin and end. The Second Amendment is among the most debated parts of the Constitution. In 2008, District of Columbia v. Heller confirmed it protects an individual's right to possess firearms for lawful purposes, like self-defense at home. Later, McDonald v. Chicago extended this right to state and local governments. But the right isn't unlimited. Reasonable regulations remain constitutional. The Miller case raised a new question. Does owning a gun weaken your other rights? Ohio argued that gun ownership justified weaker Fourth Amendment protections. Civil liberties advocates pushed back. Exercising one right shouldn't cost you another. The real issue was whether constitutional rights stand together as an indivisible shield against government overreach. The Fourth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution stands as a powerful shield, protecting your right to be secure in your home from unreasonable searches and seizures. This fundamental right is a cornerstone of American liberty, ensuring that your private space cannot be invaded without strong justification. In most cases, police must obtain a warrant, which is a legal document signed by a judge based on probable cause, before they can search your residence. This process is designed to prevent arbitrary intrusions and to ensure that your privacy is respected by the authorities. The home receives the highest level of protection under the law. Warrantless searches are presumed to be unreasonable, with only a few, narrowly defined exceptions allowed. This high standard reflects the deep value placed on the sanctity of the home. In Miller's case, police had neither a warrant nor a valid exception. Instead, they relied on an anonymous tip and claimed that Miller had consented to the search. This raised serious questions about the legitimacy of their actions, but for consent to be valid, it must be freely and voluntarily given, not the result of intimidation, coercion, or the overwhelming presence of authority figures at your door. In response, Ohio argued for a new firearm exception, which would allow police to search homes suspected of containing guns with less evidence than normally required. This proposal sought to lower the threshold for entering private homes. Such an exception would challenge the very core of the Fourth Amendment, suggesting that the type of property inside, like firearms, could alter the constitutional rules that have protected Americans for generations. The Supreme Court was faced with a critical question. Is this a reasonable measure to protect public safety, or does it represent a dangerous erosion of the privacy rights that define American freedom? The answer would set a powerful precedent, shaping the boundaries of government power and determining just how far authorities can go in the name of public safety. The stakes were incredibly high, not just for Miller, but for every American's expectation of privacy and security within their own home. The outcome would affect millions. Ultimately, the court's decision would draw a new and lasting line between individual liberty and government authority, shaping the future of privacy rights in America. The justices faced profound questions in Miller v. United States. Could exercising the Second Amendment justify weakening the Fourth? Does gun ownership mean less privacy at home? Ohio wanted a lower standard, reasonable suspicion, not probable cause, when firearms were involved. The court had to decide if this would create a two-tiered system, one for gun owners, one for everyone else. Another issue. Did Miller truly consent, or did he just submit to police authority? The ruling would clarify what counts as voluntary consent and set standards for police-citizen encounters. The justices also weighed public safety against constitutional rights, asking if there were better ways to investigate gun tips without warrantless searches. Their task balanced security with the Constitution's command to protect liberty. The Supreme Court ruled unanimously for David Miller. The opinion declared the Second and Fourth Amendments are not in conflict. They are complementary. Lawful gun ownership cannot be used to diminish other rights. The court rejected Ohio's firearm exception, finding no constitutional basis for a lower standard. The home remains a castle, regardless of what's inside. The ruling clarified that consent must be freely given, not coerced by police presence or authority. The government must prove any waiver of rights is genuine. The court acknowledged public safety concerns but insisted the Constitution offers many tools. Warrantless home entry isn't one of them. The decision reaffirmed that public safety and liberty are not mutually exclusive. The message, a secure society, is one where government power is strong, but freedom is stronger. The Miller decision's impact was immediate. Police departments nationwide revised training, prohibiting warrantless searches based solely on suspected firearms. Warrant applications for gun cases rose, showing police were following the law. Legal experts called it a landmark for civil liberties. Rights are not a la carte. The ruling ended the practice of using gun safety checks as a pretext for searches. Hundreds of cases were re-evaluated. Many charges were dismissed. For individuals like Miller, it meant exoneration. For the legal system, a return to stricter Fourth Amendment standards. Some police worried it would make removing illegal guns harder, but the decision forced a shift to smarter, more constitutional policing. The new reality, investigation, not intrusion, is the path forward. The Miller ruling is a masterclass in constitutional balance. It doesn't stop police from investigating gun crimes or arresting criminals. It reinforces the safeguards that must be followed. Requiring warrants ensures state power isn't wielded arbitrarily. This builds public trust and prevents unfair targeting of gun owners. The decision checks legislative overreach, signaling that new gun laws can't erode other rights. The home remains a sanctuary. Privacy is a fundamental value. Lawmakers must focus on criminal behavior, not broad intrusions. The court affirmed the Fourth Amendment's warrant requirement is the definition of reasonable policing. Miller didn't create a new right. It restored the balance at the heart of American freedom. True security is justice and the steadfast protection of liberty, even when inconvenient. The Miller decision reshaped the legal landscape for police, courts, and citizens. For law enforcement, it's a clear directive. The home's sanctity is paramount regardless of firearms. Police must rely on solid investigation, not shortcuts. For courts, Miller provides a bright-line rule: no more ambiguity or fractured standards. For Americans, it's a powerful affirmation. Exercising one right doesn't diminish another. The ruling empowers individuals and reinforces the limits of government power. The principles of this unanimous decision will echo in future legal battles as new challenges arise. The question remains, how will this unified vision of liberty guide the next generation of conflicts between state power and individual freedom?